On this Wednesday edition of Now, flyers show up in Boothbay Harbor urging people to join the KKK.
Plus, rent control sounds like a good idea, but it could have some costly consequences.
And gubernatorial candidate Diane Russell is in studio live answering your questions.
This is News Center Now.
I think this policy is actually going to hurt some of the housing that needs it most.
In the midst of a struggle to get rent control ordinance on the November ballot in Portland, a new group has emerged to tell voters why they think it's a bad idea. Good evening, everyone. I'm Amanda Hill.
And I'm Chris Costa in for Lee Goldberg. We've been following the story of a group called Fair Rent Portland and its efforts to get a rent stabilization initiative in front of Portland voters.
But a new group called Say No to Rent Control says locking down a rent price sounds like a great idea, but it can seriously cost you in the long run.
The group is composed of landlords, contractors, and others who say the proposed initiative is reckless and extreme. They say housing policy is complicated and should not be decided by referendum.
If you ask a tenant if they would like it so that their rent could never go up, of course it would be great. Would you like the price of milk to never go up, and bread and gasoline? That's not the country we're living in, and that's not the way we found works best for communities to actually create more housing, to create an inclusive community that can grow and prosper.
It's a complicated issue with two sides. News Center's Jessica Gagne spoke with both groups today and has more on the pros and cons of rent control. Jess?
Rent control is a reality for cities in 4 other states and Washington, D.C. Fair Rent Portland says the new initiative is modeled after West Hollywood, California and Tacoma Park, Maryland. Those ordinances have been in place for 30 years. Fair Rent Portland says both cities were able to relieve the housing crisis while supporting long-term development. If Portland were to adopt a similar policy, they say benefits would include less people having to move out of the city due to rent increases, keeping workers in homes that are close to their jobs, and attracting more workers to move into the city. It will also stop landlords from hiking up rents to boost profits. On the other hand, the group Say No to Rent Control says a freeze on rent sounds like a nice idea, but it has consequences. They say landlords will be less motivated to repair and update old apartments because costs won't outweigh the benefits. That means less work for painters and roofers. They also say it will stop growth and new construction in a time when Portland needs more housing options. But what do economists say about rent control? There are good and bad things. A report published in 2009 by Econ Journal Watch said that it reviewed years of rent control literature, and it says that economic research, quote, quite consistently and predominantly frowns on rent control. But other reports suggest that controls do help stop people with low and middle class incomes from being forced out of the city. As far as the future of rent control in the city of Portland, it is still up in the air. A public hearing on the issue is scheduled for September 6th. For now, we'd like to hear your story. Go to pulse.newscentermaine.com to vote on today's Pulse question. Is rent control a good idea? Or select the Pulse question on our mobile apps. And as always, you can comment on the conversation that we've already started on our Facebook pages. Chris and Amanda?
There are reports of KKK flyers in Boothbay Harbor. A reverend says a member of the church brought one to her today, saying that they found it downtown. Since then, people have seen flyers on Middle Road, Lakeside Drive, and along Route 27. The reverend says the flyers were placed inside plastic baggies with rocks and appear to have been thrown onto lawns.
Helicopters and rescue crews are scouring the water off the coast of Hawaii, searching for 5 American service members. Investigators believe a Black Hawk helicopter went down during a training exercise overnight, about 2 miles from Oahu.
A suspected bank robber may be on the loose in Brunswick. Police say employees at the TD Bank on Tibbetts Drive reported a holdup around 9 this morning. The man ran off after a teller handed over the cash. Police say he is a white male over 6 feet tall. We are in the midst of a sunny stretch and the temps are climbing.
Yeah, so we sent Jess Conley outside to enjoy that sunshine. She's got a first look at our forecast. Hey, Jess.
Hey, guys, it's awesome out here. It's been a great day today, too. We saw the sun around for most of the day. Temperatures were able to warm back up, too. Most of us made it into the upper 70s and low 80s. Right now, it's still 79 in Portland. Plenty of sunshine, blue skies out here. 75 right now in Bangor, a little bit cooler off to the north and west though. 64 degrees right now in Greenville, 71 in Millinocket. Lewiston though still at 76, and Augusta currently at 74. Dew points are much lower too. Look at the dew points in the 40s and some 50s. That means much drier air is in place. It's not as humid and it feels pretty good out here if you ask me. Right now mostly clear skies too, but look in the kind of bottom right hand corner of your screen there. That is Hurricane Gert. That is affecting our weather in one little way. High surf advisories are in place along the mid coast and the down east coast. The rip currents could be pretty strong, so just be careful if you are in that area. Could see a lot of splash over as well. A little bit breezy out here, but still not too bad. Winds right now around 10 to 15 miles an hour. Winds will calm down tonight. Gusting though as high as 20 to 25 miles an hour. And guys, it looks like another pretty nice day on the way for tomorrow before some much needed rain is back. So we'll talk about all of that coming up in just a little bit.
All right, we'll see you then, Jess. Thanks. Dianne Russell may be one of the most progressive liberals in Maine. She spoke at the Democratic National Convention last summer in support of restructuring the Electoral College. Now she wants to be Maine's next governor, and today she is here live answering questions. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me. And it was actually the superdelegate system within the Democratic Party.
There we go. Okay.
Very exciting.
So let's start with your agenda first. Can we assume it will be on sort of the progressive side?
Without question, my hope is that we're going to talk about and bring single-payer health care to Maine. We've seen with the national debate that neither party has been able to get it right. They've tried to fix a broken private system, and I think we all understand that Medicare works for people who are older. It's time to bring Medicare down to everyone who of all ages. And so my hope is to bring Medicare for all to Maine. My hope is to continue the work I started years ago on college affordability, to make sure that we're introducing a Maine State Public Bank so that our Treasury, instead of sitting on Wall Street, that it's sitting here on Main Street and putting our money to use right down with our small businesses. I also want to work on the opioid crisis. You know, one of my dear friends passed away not that long ago from PTSD from the war, and I want to make sure that we don't lose one more person here in Maine to the opioid crisis.
Okay, we'll get to some viewer questions here. John posted on our Facebook page. He says half of your potential constituents are conservative and their viewpoint is being attacked. How are you going to reach out to those voters?
You know, it's a great question. I am running as a solid progressive. I don't think there's any question, but you know what? My treasurer is a Republican. There's a whole host of folks who are supporting me. As soon as I announced, I had all over my Facebook page, Republicans for Dianne, because they want someone that they can believe in. They may not always agree on everything, and I don't think it's fair to ask that you agree with every single thing on a politician, let alone the person next door. But when you have someone that you can be clear about what their convictions are, that they're clearly in it for the right reasons, people will support you, and people understand that I have been clear and consistent about my values, making sure that we're building a coalition of communities that support one another, that we're not demonizing one another, and that we're actually making sure that we're building an economy that works for everyone, not just the top 1%.
That said, Jeffrey has a number of questions, but we'll tackle the first one. He wants to know if we should lower the employment age.
Do you mean for child labor? I'm curious about, I don't know what the question, do you mean the 16 years old?
I would think that's what he's asking.
Okay,
yeah.
I just want to make sure that I'm understanding the question.
Yeah.
So there have been proposals that have been put in to significantly lower the age, and to not just to lower the age, but also to expand the number of hours that students are able to work. You know, one of the reasons we put child labor protections in the first place is because we wanted to make sure that our children got an education. We also wanted to make sure that we're making that kids are able to go to school and able to study at night. You know, I spent a lot of time playing basketball, but I also spent a lot of time with my studies in the evening. We want to make sure that if people are working at a young age, that they're also able to get good grades in school, and that we're not compromising their educational quality just so that they can go get a job. It's absolutely important that kids have the opportunity to work in high school, but I don't think that we should be expanding the number of hours dramatically, because I think that ends up hurting them in the long term.
Quickly, talking about free college, do you believe in free college and who should pay for it? So.
You know, it's a great question. I do think that we have disinvested in our higher education significantly. It's caused real problems for people. I myself have a significant amount of student loan debt. But one of the things that we have in Maine is the Opportunity Maine program. I strongly recommend that you look into it. You know, way back when in 2006 and 2007, I and numerous other folks who were saddled with student loan debt got a petition on the ballot to make the Opportunity Maine program a reality in Maine, and essentially we have a dollar-for-dollar tax credit against your student loan payments for eligible employees. So you graduate college in Maine, You pay your student loans that year, and then in your income taxes, Maine will give you a dollar for dollar tax credit against it. So we know that we have our students and our graduates staying here. Employers, this is the best part, employers can pay the student loan payments for their eligible employees and take the tax credit for themselves. Imagine being able to graduate college, get be able to go into a job and have your employer paying your student loan payments as you're getting on your feet. What a magic thing. So we already have a great program. We have one of the best financial programs in the country for going to college. We need to expand it and make sure that more people have access.
Okay, Diane Russell running for governor. Thanks so much for joining us, and jump on Facebook Live if you want to ask a few more questions during the commercial break. Chris?
All right, Amanda, thanks so much. On the other side of the aisle, gubernatorial candidate Mary Mayhew met with some powerhouses in the Republican Party yesterday. According to a campaign spokesperson, Jonathan Bush Sr., the brother of Bush 41, hosted a luncheon for some of his friends and Mayhew. There's a new name at the top of the leaderboard. It's the most liked tweet in history, but it has a pretty heavy subject matter.
And yet another Game of Thrones episode is released ahead of schedule. What the heck's going on with HBO? We'll tell you right after the break.
We have a new record in the Twitter sphere for the most liked tweet of all time. I'm Katie Ortiz with your Social Stop. Former President Obama's response to the deadly car attack and violent protests this weekend in Virginia has 3.5 million likes. On Saturday, he tweeted a photo of him greeting a group of children through the window of a daycare center in Maryland. The photo was taken back in 2011, and the kids are of different ethnic backgrounds. Paired with the pic is an excerpt of a quote from former South African President Nelson Mandela: "No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion." So whose tweet did he surpass as the most liked? That would be pop singer Ariana Grande's response to the deadly terror attack outside her concert in Manchester, England. Her words have 2.7 million likes. And while we're at it, we'll remind you of the most retweeted tweet ever. Nugs for Carter. Back in April, Carter Wilkerson asked Wendy's what it would take to get free chicken nuggets for a year. They said 18 million. Well, the teen got 1.3 million retweets, which was more than enough for them. He got his free chicken nuggets for a year. Coco and Amanda, back to you.
Two very important things, and then chicken nuggets.
Yeah,
there it is. Okay, a few things Game of Thrones fans hate more than spoilers. So, warning you right now, be wary of the internet for the next few days. Yet another episode of Game of Thrones was leaked ahead of schedule. HBO says fans in some European countries were able to watch this Sunday's episode for about an hour this morning. The leak was not the work of a hacker. HBO says it was a mistake on their part. The episode has already been removed from the streaming services. Meanwhile, 4 suspects were arrested in India for a cyber attack against HBO. That led to the leaking of an episode last month.
Let's take a look at our Pulse question. The vote's starting to come in so far. Let's see if we can bring up the totals here at the bottom of the screen. Oh, there you go.
Okay.
55% of you saying no, rent control is not a good idea.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, we'll certainly hear more about it as this conversation continues up to the November ballot. And you can continue to weigh in on that Pulse question there.
So, all right, some Goo Goo Dolls fans pretty disappointed tonight. The group had to cancel tonight's Portland performance because of an illness.
Yeah, and it's about to get pretty hot out there. Jess Conley's keeping an eye on the temperatures next in her full forecast. That was video taken from the Goo Goo Dolls concert in Boston last night. The band was supposed to play the Main State Pier tonight in Portland, but announced they were canceling because frontman John Resnick has a cold and lost his voice. The group made a personal apology on both Facebook and Twitter, even apologizing for the times his voice dropped out last night.
Now, for the most part, fans were sympathetic. Even Wendy, who apparently had meet and greet passes and said, "Health comes first. Hope to see you in Maine soon." Mike saying, "Get well, Johnny," and Jocelyn sending love and good health vibes. But Boston fans did not seem as forgiving, asking, "Can I have my money back, Mr. Goo Goo?" And "I paid way too much for that disaster of a show." Fans say the group's second member had to step in and take over singing while the audience covered much of the rest. Fans who were planning to catch the Goo Goo Dolls tonight will get a refund for their tickets. They can pick that up from the vendor they bought from, like Aura or The Pier, or if they were purchased online through a site like Ticketmaster, they should be taken care of there.
By the way, it's not often an artist outright cancels a show. Waterfront Concerts sent us a statement this afternoon saying, quote, "As you can see from the heartfelt note to the fans, much like the staff at WFC, the artist is truly grateful for the fans that purchased tickets. Without them, none of us have jobs." By the way, 40 years ago today, the king of rock and roll died.
But Elvis Presley's legacy is thriving, and his music is still streamed decades later. According to Spotify, Elvis fans have streamed his music more than 1 billion times with a B. His most popular song is Can't Help Falling in Love. The biggest share of Elvis listening is in Sweden, followed by the UK.
That is actually very interesting. Elvis, as we know, was scheduled to perform here in Maine just one day after his death. Really quickly, still time to vote on today's Pulse poll. Is rent control a good idea? Go to pulse.newscentermaine.com to vote or select the Pulse tab on our mobile apps and tell us what you think in the comments section of our Facebook Live feed going on right now. And Miss Jess Conley, who has apparently a lot of puffin pictures.
So many puffin pictures.
So
Still going through those puffin pictures. We had a nice day today, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys got a chance to be outside, but it's pretty good. Sunny, temperatures were pretty nice. Tomorrow, kind of similar. We'll see some sun tomorrow, a few more clouds once we get into tomorrow afternoon, though, and then some rain Friday into Saturday. We do need some rain, so that's going to be good. The weekend, though, overall, still looks pretty decent, so some good news there. Here's a look at our high temperatures for today. Most of us made it into the upper 70s and low 80s, 82 today in Portland. Normal high for this time of year for Portland is 78, so we were pretty close. Bangor making it up to 78 degrees today. Their normal high is 79, so not too bad overall as far as the temperatures go. And temperatures tomorrow should be pretty similar, but it looks like we'll be dealing with a few more clouds once we get into tomorrow afternoon. All right. Look at the satellite radar. Really not a lot going on. It's pretty quiet out there, mostly clear skies. Things, again, pretty quiet in our area. We are still watching Hurricane Gert. Can barely see it here in kind of the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Now a Category 2 hurricane. It is causing some rip currents in our area, so do be careful if you are along the down east coast or the mid coast as well. Pretty well-defined eye right there for Gert. It will track off to the north and east. It's going to stay far away from us. It's moving, actually, it's already to the east of Nova Scotia at this time, continuing to move off to the east, and it will do so over the next couple of days as well. But now, tropics getting pretty active. It is that time of year that things start to ramp up. We're watching 3 separate disturbances now. Most of these have at least a 40 to 50% chance for development. So definitely something to watch as we go throughout the next several days and into the next week. All right, let's talk about our weather, though, for tomorrow. It's looking pretty good. Again, we'll start with sunny skies. Temperatures tomorrow morning starting out in the 60s. By lunchtime, most of us warm up into the low to mid 70s, so not too bad. But then we'll start to see the clouds move in as we get into tomorrow afternoon and evening, and especially into early Friday morning. You can really see them here. I think this model goes a little quick with the rain. I think the rain will hold off until after about lunchtime on Friday, but then as it moves in, it will be fairly heavy for some spots overnight Friday into Saturday. Again, we do need the rain, though, so not too bad there. It will clear up by Saturday afternoon. It's looking pretty good for the rest of the weekend, too. Here's your marine forecast for tomorrow. Seas around 3 to 5 feet. Still that small craft advisory in place until 8 o'clock tomorrow evening. Winds from the west could gust as high as 25 knots by tomorrow afternoon. All right, here's your extended forecast again. Some rain by Friday night into early Saturday, but then it clears out for Sunday, so at least we have one solid day this coming weekend. Monday looks like it's going to heat up. Monday and Tuesday, temperatures could make it close to 90 degrees and still looking good for Monday. Anyone that wants to see the eclipse, of course, wants clear skies. Still on track with that, so definitely good news there.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot, Jess.
Thanks.
All right. Question of whether antidepressants actually work. 1 in 10 Americans over the age of 12 say they took antidepressants, according to the CDC, but for many, the medications did not work.
Sometimes it's about trying a different medication or a different kind of therapy, and now some doctors say a treatment for chronic pain can help those who have mental wounds. Haley Hernandez reports.
29-year-old Brittany moved jobs and cities, and once she settled into Houston alone, felt like her happiness disappeared.
At one point, I sat down and I said, "Brittany, what will make you happy?" and I couldn't think of one thing in the world that would make me happy. And that's the point whenever I said, I need to go get help.
She went to Calypso Wellness Center. Here, Dr. Mark Moran uses a common anesthesia drug called ketamine. In tiny doses given through an IV, Moran says it has miraculous healing powers.
It certainly helps with nerve pain like sciatica or shingles. It also helps with inflammatory pain like arthritis, migraines, and fibromyalgia.
The procedure itself is not FDA approved. Because of that, no health insurance companies will cover it, and it's hundreds of dollars per infusion. However, Moran believes this is the answer patients like Brittany are searching for.
Medications, I kept upping the dose, and I was tired of being medicated all the time.
According to the NIH, antidepressants are not meant to and cannot make people feel happy, but aim to help people feel normal. Brittany says she had realistic expectations for the pills she was given, but she says they made her groggy. On the other hand, she says she's had no side effects from ketamine and insists this does make her happier.
I'm more productive at work, I sleep better, and overall, my morale has been so better.
Really interesting concept as we hear about, things that have, non-traditional when you think about Western medicine, using marijuana to cure chronic pain and so on and so forth. So to hear about these kind of alternative methods, really, really interesting.
Certainly, yeah. By the way, that was Haley Hernandez reporting, and we will take a quick break. Be right back. Maybe it's just me, but this seems early. Today is the first day of school for some kids in northern Maine. The Limestone Police Department posted this photo to their Facebook page, saying the chief was in the halls handing out goodies and boosting morale. Some Maine schools are on a potato harvest schedule, so the kids go back to class a little earlier in the summer. But these kids are not the only ones excited for school day.
Are you going to school today? Oh my gosh! Go get him! Oh.
This puppy is so ready to get on the school bus with his furry friends. This video is getting a lot of attention after it was shared by the Twitter account We Rate Dogs. This week we're showing you viral pet videos in hopes of inspiring you to adopt an animal on Clear the Shelters Day, Saturday, August 19th.
All right, votes are in, by the way, on our question. Looks like you're pretty split. 53% say no, 47% say yes on whether rent should be controlled.
All right, very interesting. Thanks for weighing in on our Pulse question and on our Facebook Live. News Center at 5:30 starts right now.